The Smith family had been living in the same apartment for over a decade. It was small, but it was their home. For years, they had made the best of their situation, creating memories, raising their children, and building a life in a community they loved. But everything changed when they received an unexpected notice in the mail. The letter was from their building's management company, informing them that they were being evicted to make room for new luxury apartments. The reason? The CEO of the development company, a ruthless businessman named Victor Hargrove, had decided it was time to upgrade the building to maximize profits. The Smiths were devastated. With no savings and no alternative housing options, they felt their entire world was crumbling. They had no idea how they would be able to fight back against such a powerful corporation. As they sat at their kitchen table, discussing what to do next, the doorbell rang. Standing at the door was none other than Keanu Reeves, looking calm as always. "I'm sorry to interrupt," Keanu said with a friendly smile, "but I overheard what's going on, and I think I might be able to help." The Smiths were stunned. "What can you do?" The father, James, asked, his voice filled with a mixture of hope and disbelief. Keanu stepped inside, his eyes scanning the room thoughtfully. "You're being pushed out by a man who doesn't care about you or your family," he said quietly. "But I know someone who can make sure this doesn't happen." What is Keanu going to do to stop this ruthless CEO? And why is he getting involved? Stay with us, because things are about to get intense. Keanu had a plan. He explained to the Smith family that Victor Hargrove's actions were not just greedy, but also legally questionable. "He's taking advantage of people who have no choice but to accept his decisions," Keanu said. "But I've been looking into his company, and there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than meets the eye." Keanu's calm demeanor gave the family a sense of hope, something they hadn't felt in days. He wasn't just talking about legal loopholes or activism. Keanu had actual leverage. "Hargrove might think he can push people around," Keanu continued, "but he doesn't know I've been keeping an eye on his business practices." The Smiths listened closely, their eyes wide with a mix of disbelief and curiosity. "I've been working with a group of whistleblowers," Keanu said, "and we've gathered evidence that shows his company has been using illegal tactics to force out tenants and increase profits." Just as he finished speaking, Keanu pulled out a folder from his bag. Inside, there were documents detailing several instances of illegal eviction notices, falsified records, and reports of unsafe living conditions that had been intentionally ignored. "This isn't just about your apartment," Keanu explained. "This is about exposing a pattern of corporate greed and abuse." But just as the family began to feel a sense of relief, there was a knock on the door. It was a delivery, but when they opened it, they found a menacing letter from Hargrove himself, threatening legal action against anyone who interfered with the eviction process. Is this the end of their fight? What will Keanu do next? Stay tuned, because the battle is just beginning. Keanu wasn't fazed by the letter. Instead, he simply smiled as if he had been expecting it. "This is just the beginning," he said, handing James a copy of the documents he had gathered. "Hargrove is trying to intimidate you, but it won't work. This is where we start playing his game." Keanu immediately began working with the Smiths, guiding them through the process of gathering further evidence and finding support within the community. Word of the Smiths' fight spread quickly, and soon, neighbors who had been quietly suffering under Hargrove's management were reaching out. They were ready to speak up. But Keanu had another surprise. He reached out to a local news station, arranging for an undercover reporter to visit the building, posing as a prospective tenant. The reporter was given full access to the building's conditions, and what they found was shocking. From broken elevators to moldy walls, the building was in horrible shape, but Hargrove had been covering it all up to make the luxury apartments look more appealing. The reporter's investigation would be the final piece of evidence they needed. As the investigation went on, Keanu continued to guide the Smiths, helping them gather even more testimony and prepare for the inevitable confrontation with Hargrove. Just when it seemed like they had the upper hand, Hargrove made a public statement on TV, claiming that the Smith family was trying to exploit his company's good name. He painted them as opportunists and liars, using his media influence to sway public opinion against them. How will the Smiths fight back against such a powerful figure? Can Keanu expose Hargrove's lies? Stay with us, because the stakes are higher than ever. Keanu knew they had to hit Hargrove where it hurt. His reputation. He wasn't just fighting for the Smiths anymore, he was fighting to expose the entire corrupt system Hargrove had built. Keanu's plan was daring but clever. He arranged a meeting with Hargrove under the guise of a private discussion to resolve the situation. As Keanu entered Hargrove's sleek glass-walled office, he was met with a cold reception. "I know what you're doing," Hargrove sneered. "This is business, not a charity." Keanu, as calm as ever, sat across from him. "Business?" Keanu asked, his voice almost a whisper. "You've turned people's lives into commodities. You don't care about families, about their struggles." Hargrove's expression remained unchanged. "I'm just doing what any businessman would do, maximizing profits." But Keanu was prepared. He slid the documents he had gathered across the table. "These are your illegal activities," he said, his tone firm, "and I've sent copies to every major news outlet in the city. Your empire is about to come crashing down." Hargrove's face twisted in disbelief. "You can't do this. I'll have you arrested." Keanu stood up, his eyes cold. "You can try, but you won't stop the truth from coming out." At that moment, Keanu hit him with the final blow. He revealed the undercover footage of the reporter walking through the building, exposing the appalling conditions. Hargrove's eyes widened as the evidence continued to pour in. Will Keanu's confrontation be enough to bring Hargrove down, or will the ruthless CEO find a way to escape? The conclusion is just around the corner, so keep watching. Within hours of the meeting, the media erupted with the explosive story. The public outcry was swift, and soon the authorities were investigating Hargrove's practices. The Smiths, now backed by public support, felt a sense of justice that they hadn't known in years. Hargrove's reputation was shattered, and his company's stock began to plummet. But for the Smiths, the fight was more personal. They received an official apology from the city's housing department, and the eviction notice was completely revoked. They were allowed to stay in their home, and they received compensation for the hardships they'd faced. James looked at Keanu, his voice full of gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you. You saved us." Keanu smiled, his calm presence offering a sense of reassurance. "You did all the hard work. I just helped show the world the truth." As Keanu walked away from the building, leaving the Smiths to enjoy their hard-earned victory, James stood with his family. For the first time in weeks, they were able to breathe easy. They weren't just surviving. They were thriving. If you were inspired by Keanu's actions, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay updated on more incredible stories like this. Sometimes one person can make all the difference.